What is up, everybody? Welcome in to Northern Astrology's NFL Kickoff, combining the worlds of sports and astrology. My name is Gracey Terrell. I go by Gracey. No need for formalities around here. The only formality that we actually needed was my camera being refreshed and ready to go. And since we're here, we are live. We are covering all sorts of things. I say we because I'm a Gemini moon and I can actually use plural when referring to myself. It's a beautiful workaround here with astrology. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad that we are up and running. I'm glad that things are back live. And thank you for tuning in, even regardless of the technical difficulties. So I think it's going to be a fun show today, mostly because I've never really publicly combined my love of astrology with sports. What I've been doing over the last couple years in the background, literally since 2022, I've been looking into how I can predict games, how I can follow games, how I can better understand athletes from all around the place. So once again, thank you for getting through the technical difficulty part, because we are going to have this video live on my YouTube as well as my Twitter for replay. So if you're joining us live, great. I see that good friend Christopher Scruggs is in the chat. Heck yeah. A lot of people that have found my channel over the last few years have, with the transition to astrology. Hold on, let me adjust this real quick. I think it's working. We should be good. Yes. I just need to get back a little bit. But a lot of the times with people transforming their career paths or changing directions, people give you a lot of shit for it. I want to let you know that at any time, at any age, you can rebrand to whatever the hell you want, because we live in a world that is pretty much make your own adventure. I don't want to say choose your own adventure, because some things are out of your choosing and out of choice. And I got to choose to walk away from my sports media career at a time that was really, really beneficial to me, as well as my family, and as well as just my overall well-being. And I'm the center of a lot of things in my world, okay? So I know that a lot of people have heard me from different astrology collaborations, different shows. I was recently doing a lot of live chart readings, and that was really cool. I've also done guest appearances on various podcasts, and some as an astrologer and some as just a regular human being talking about my business accomplishments. So, being 36 years old and jumping into astrology is not exactly what is considered a traditional career path, but luckily I was drawn to this and I didn't have a choice. So if that's something that resonates with you, and you might also feel like astrology was not a choice in your life, it was a calling, then we absolutely have something in common. So once again, I'm super glad that you guys are here with me. I am going to make sure that everything is working on a technical end, and then we will jump right into going through the charts. I'll be right back with you. All right, so everything looks good. Hi, Amanda. So good to see you on the chat. There's going to be a lot of jumping around because I also got this really cool iMac, and I've never worked a Mac device in my life outside of my iPhone, iPad, iPod, and Apple TV connection. So it really shouldn't be that difficult. It shouldn't be that hard or much of a challenge. But here I am proving every day that old people can learn new things. And I know, once again, I'm not old. But with that being said, we were just talking about how things can transform. You can change career paths at any point. A lot of people know me from my sports media days and my nickname, which was GAT, still is GAT if you're part of my family, or like an obscure population that resides in Kansas City and knows me from my sports radio days. And I mean, there's also times that I run into people that have heard me from when I was on Armed Forces Network, when I was doing media appearances out in San Francisco, all sorts of random appearances I've done over the years. So there's no real one place that you could have seen me. I've been on the news. I've been in the papers. I've been everywhere. That's kind of the plight of a Gemini moon, though. Like, we're yappers, and we are either making headlines or running from headlines or God knows what. You know, the Gemini moon thing is strong because I am a Cancer rising. Being ruled by the moon is not an easy plight as well. And the more that I started to learn about myself with astrology, the more it all made sense. So I went from really being involved with the sports end of things, being like very stats driven, not stats driven, but like I could manipulate stats to make any argument possible, which is kind of like, you know, numbers and Gemini go hand in hand as well. And it wasn't necessarily like, I wouldn't say that I was just like an angry person in sports, but I was definitely known for being a controversial figure, which is something that kind of comes naturally to me. So I wanted to approach astrology and sports in the same way, just like an honest thing. I'm not trying to tell you that I am Nostradamus. I am not trying to tell you that I can determine the outcome of any game, any sporting event ever. The one thing I do know, though, is Kansas City football, whether it's, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs, or even flag football. I am involved at a local level with flag football. I love youth sports. I think it's the purest form of any sport possible. So if I could do youth football chart breakdowns and have a large audience, I would probably do that as well. But since, you know, it's NFL kickoff, I mean, technically we're leaving off at a great place or we're picking up at a great place because where we left off was the Super Bowl prediction. And a lot of people do Super Bowl predictions every year. It's not really that, like literally it's a 50-50 chance to get it right. So I'm not claiming to be Einstein here either, but I'm good at what I do. And I'm developing that skill with the more I talk about this stuff, right? Like if I'm 2 years into doing sports event charts, like I started with UFC and with NFL charts. I tried college football, but geez, that shit moves quickly. I was not prepared for all the detail and depth of research for every single team. Even trying to do one was slightly exhausting. So, you know, I was like, where can I really shine? And the Chiefs have naturally had my heart my whole life. I know I've covered this on my blogs, but if you're new here or if you just subscribed to the channel recently, or if you haven't heard me fucking talk, because I've had an astrology account, an astrology Twitter, and astrology Instagram, and I guess astrology YouTube for a couple years now. Before that, I was involved with astrology Twitter from my Muggle account or my layperson account, whatever you want to call it. I was a media personality, and I also happened to talk about the stars, which when you go from sports media and talking about nothing but masculine topics and like very linear, black and white thinking, and then you try to introduce astrology. When I looked at my, when I closed that account, I looked at my demographic and my following, and it was like 80% men, 20% women. And I'm over here trying to talk about, you know, mystical shit, like it's going to have a good reception. And, you know, for a while it did. People thought it was just like another gimmick thing that I was doing. And, you know, I've heard the rumblings of, you know, people going from, you know, career to career as being a grifter, but really I don't give a shit, because if you're grifting, you're faking it, and there's nothing I can really fake about this. If I tried to run from astrology, it would still find me regardless of if I wanted it to or not. So it's been real, but like the biggest gift of all of it has been being able to like share this with you guys. And I haven't done myself a good service by being like kind of just subtly tweeting, sharing some things, sharing some blog posts. I've done a couple of great episodes with Mariah's in the chat right now. Hello. I've done a couple great episodes with her, and we talked about Gnosticism and the spring equinox. We've talked about really romanticizing your life and doing things that are, I mean, that's in the magazine. In case you missed it, I also publish a magazine, very casually, moving on to the next subject. But being able to talk to people and share the ideas and concepts that you have really make it grow. Like, I could sit here all day and be like, this is how you configure this, this, and this. Without the real life experience, without the people interacting with it, without the joy that I'm feeling when I'm helping people and helping people figure themselves out, what am I doing it for? I'm not motivated by money. I wish I was. Life would be a lot easier. I am motivated by acts of service and being able to be of use, as well as being able to know things. I like knowing things. Gemini moon life, we like knowing things. So really, the journey has been about finding myself through the cosmos, as well as giving credit to my former self that didn't know any better, you know? And that's the biggest thing with a lot of spirituality concepts, is that you might not know it. Like, you might not know it all, and humans are not supposed to. So I try a lot of the times to remind people that it's okay. It's okay if you pick this stuff up and never learn anything more than your sun sign. Nothing bad will happen to you, okay? You will go through life existing just fine. If you want to be more than just fine, learn your moon sign. And if you want to be excellent in life, learn your rising sign. And I realize it's a privilege to have your birth time. I realize not every single person in this lifetime has been brought into this world with a loving mother and father welcoming them with open arms. A lot of people are born into this world without the knowledge of who their parents are and without the knowledge of where they're even born or what time they were born, let alone what day. It's not something that I would say astrology is a privileged craft. It can be at times. You know, there are certain levels of research and knowledge that I have gotten myself to, and concepts that I have taught myself, and things that I have experienced that I later go back and astrologize, and it's fascinating. It's probably one of the most healing things you can do is find your birth time, number one, if that's possible. If not, there's still plenty that you can do. But it's really about having that power of knowing that you are divinely made, you are divinely timed, regardless of if you know this stuff or not. So without getting into my TED talk about why everyone needs to tell me their birth time and how I can help everyone, which is not wrong. Like, if my superpower is taking the time of your birth, and thanks to modern technology, not having to go through a massive manual of planets and positions and astronomy, like, we're living in a time where you can just enter in somebody's birth date and birth time and it just pops up. Like, there's nothing to complain about, you know? Like, I don't have to carry around books and be like weighed down by just the energies that you have to carry around with you, knowing all the things and knowing how to read it. It cuts down a lot of shit. But at the same time, I know like I said, I'm ruled by my Gemini moon. So with all this comes duality. At the same time, you have people that are very easily scam artists. And I have no problem addressing these people. And I have no problem telling them that what goes around comes around. And if you scam someone and take things from them, it'll bite you in the ass. And there's no shame in saying that, you know, manipulating is also a Gemini moon characteristic. And for me, being a Gemini moon, it's okay to admit that there are times where you're like, oh, I could kind of work this to my favor. And it's like, is that a negative thing, or is that simply duality and knowing your audience? Who knows? That's a topic for another time. But, you know, there's always levels to it, and the scammers get caught, and it's not really going to be any easier with the transits we have coming up. Another thing that I just want to say while we are all here, ethics. I shouldn't have to make these kind of comments, and it's nothing against the person that tagged me in the post or anything that I'm about to share, but it's about knowing your limits. And while I have been in astrology for what seems like a blip, I have seen, and I've also participated in conversations that blur the lines. You know, we talk about things all the time that are like, what should we share? What can we share? But when somebody gives you a birth time and confidence, or at least behind closed doors. They're not like just tweeting it to you saying, hey, can you check out my chart and see what's there? Because that happens all the time. Outside of that, like taking somebody's information and sharing it with the public so somebody can dissect the transits happening in a public figure's life and let them know when like the time of ruin is going to be and do it for the prediction clout, it rubs me the wrong way. I make predictions in real life left and right all the time. I forget about them. The like clients will call me and be like, Gracey, guess what just happened? And I'm like, I don't know what happened. And it's because we process a lot of things. We're at lightning speed. Astrologers work at lightning speed. Like I don't know even when some people have the time to sleep, the amount of information they're sharing on the internet. And it's cool to see because astrologers are like the little documentators. There we go. Scribes. That's a better word. They can just mark time with the passing of the planets and the transits and knowing the themes ahead, you know, scamming people and doing things for clout, doing things for clicks. It's not working in people's favor. Where that's going is basically a dangerous place. This recent thread that I saw was involving Patrick Mahomes and his wife, Brittany. Patrick Mahomes, it also announced in August that they're expecting a baby on the way. So she is pregnant with child. And I saw a thread of somebody talking about the downfall of Patrick Mahomes and his wife and how it could happen with this next eclipse season and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here like, these people don't even have birth times. And like, hey, I got roasted for the birth time thing with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So we'll get back to that later. But these people don't have birth times and they're talking about the ruin of a family that already has 2 children and has an unborn child on the way. And I'm supposed to be like, yeah, sure. Here's his birth time. Check it out. See if he's going to have something terrible happen. That's not ethical. I shouldn't have to say this, but, you know, it's just kind of crazy that that's what we run into. And I've been guilty of looking at the transits the moment that I see something terrible has happened. It's kind of like, it's an astrologer's reaction. Astrologers are timekeepers, they're historians, they're anthropologists, you know, they're therapists, they're psychologists, they're sociologists. Astrologers wear so many fucking hats that when we just get to wear one and just be an astrologer, it is very dopamine inducing. So like I can get a rush off of reading, okay, like this chart is connecting here and this chart's connecting here. Like I look at the chart of the moment because like how could I not when I'm sitting here and it's like, yeah, there's going to be some finicky part with the technology. It's right here in the chart, but I'm like, I'm going to proceed anyways. And I did, and everything was fine. We are fine. We are streaming. We are all good. But it's just important to remember that sometimes like things don't need to be predicted. Patrick Mahomes and his wife, Brittany, are going through Saturn returns. They're born within 2 weeks of each other. They're going to have the same-ish chart, minus the houses and the configuration and everything. So to just kind of like put that on broadcast, it's like, okay, yeah, they are going to have a difficult time. It's a Saturn return. But with a Saturn return also comes great rewards. So think of Saturn as like if you've been doing the due diligence and you've been creating great karma, you're going to get rewarded. And I had a reading earlier today that really like screamed that at me because I had never seen a Gemini Saturn before at this degree. And it was very exciting for me. And it's like one of my favorite degrees. So long story short, be ethical, be mindful. If unborn children are involved, maybe don't predict things for clout. That's just one area that I could suggest advice-wise. I've been a professional in so many different industries that like ethics for me is something that I ask about like the moment I get involved with the industry. I was involved with the Arabian horse breeding industry for a long time. My family had Arabian horses and we bred them. That was really cool. I've been involved with the oil and gas industry thanks to my dad's research business on and off since I was 9 years old. I also worked in the NFL marketing world and worked with football camps with athletes and worked directly with them. So am I going to be making predictions about people that I probably will run into at some point and make them like vile and full of like fear? No, that's not who I am. And if that's who you are, that's cool. Just know what comes with that, you know? I think that it's good to be mindful. It's good to be aware of the things that you bring onto yourself. It's also good to be like, with everything that you learn, there's limits to it, like we don't know everything. With astrology, there's still free will. And that's the one thing that I see a lot of people talking about. They're like, if I admit astrology is real, then where goes my free will? Or like, how does that work? If I admit that the planets control me, it's like, no. The planets don't control anyone. They influence. So I will wrap this introduction up, even though it's my channel and I can talk as long as I want to. And it's not that you guys are a captive audience. You can click off at any time. And I really appreciate you being here. This is my first solo live stream since 2020. Yeah. I used to run a podcast network in Kansas City, and it was super fun. We had all sorts of personalities and topics on this podcast network. It wasn't all just like sports, but a lot of it really focused on sports. So my background, like I said, is sports media. If you're just joining us, I am going to get to the Chiefs prediction and everything that I did say that I was going to get to. So I'm not just going to be yapping about myself, but it helps. It helps to know my backstory. It helps to know a little bit about the person behind the account. Because I don't really know how people interpret tone either. Because when we're tweeting and it just like, you can hear flat words, it's one thing. But my voice has been something that I've been working on and honing my entire life. Some fun backstory about me is that I was born with a massive speech impediment to the point where I can't say R, S, L, I think it's T, C sounds or... but really it's just like the R and the L. So what is my full name? Gracey Terrell. You know how that sounded growing up? Gwathy Taywur or something like that. It was just very like muffled and muttering sounding. So the fact that I talk for a living, or, that's where I rose to fame, was on a microphone running my mouth. Shocking. Surprised no one. No one was surprised that I was in the limelight and I was all of a sudden a sports media personality. Like at 0 point in my life was I ever like, you know what I'm going to do? Go on sports radio. But out of sheer spite, I wanted to prove that I could do it because it was such an old boys club, and I did it. So that was neat. Mission accomplished. Now I can move on. But it kind of was like that though. I got in so far over my head, but the fact that I was speaking and getting paid to speak and have people listen to my voice, and my voice was a part of a really big audience. Kansas City is like freakishly weird about their sports radio personalities. They treat them like it's Beyonce, and I don't understand it to this day. But it's really great if you're an average male with average opinions. You can be famous in Kansas City if you just obsess over sports long enough. Good luck. There are so many things in astrology that like indicate in my chart that I would be working with sports too. So like, not only is my speech impediment loud in my astrology chart with my 12th house Chiron, it is also, my Mars right on my descendant that is incredibly loud when it comes to athletics, sports of any sort. My dad's easy, iMac. My bad. My dad's a Hall of Fame rugby player in Kansas City. My partner is a former pro wrestler. I played lacrosse. I went to boarding school for lacrosse. I went to Ohio State camps for lacrosse and really wanted to go there, minus the fact it's in Ohio. Yeah, I'm from Kansas and I can talk shit on other Midwestern boring states. It's a thing. Just being highly competitive my whole life, whether it's in traffic or whether it's, trying to get my order first at Starbucks. Like back in the day when they didn't have drive-thrus, I would be like, I am highly favored if they do my order first. So I would like order things extremely simple so I could be like, I'm special. It was ridiculous. The lack of competition in my life now is the most soothing thing, because now I get to simply sit back, be right about everything, and carry on. So I also have a sense of humor. So, sometimes that can get lost in tweets and translation too, because I'm not introducing myself to the astrology community. I am simply reintroducing myself in general, because it's like, I don't know where you found me. I was apparently on ESPN last year. And, before that, I made history on ESPN in Kansas City. So it's like, I feel as though my 10th house sun is very loud. No matter what I do, I'm going to be in the spotlight. No matter what industry I'm in, I'm going to be pushed to the forefront. And I'm okay with that. At times, it feels a little bit daunting, but I'm okay with it. Mariah is in the chat just hyping me up. Thank you guys so much. I do appreciate you being here. Feel free to chime in. I love commentary. So if you want to add something to these charts that we're looking at, please add the commentary. So now that we've discussed all the things I went to, my background in sports, highly competitive, ethics in astrology, doing better, I dove headfirst into astrology when I found out that there was more than just, I would say, just a sun sign. I didn't know until very end of 2018. And naturally, in my very first notes that I wrote about astrology, it says, Mahomes and I have the same moon, ? I'm a Cancer rising. He's a Cancer moon. I was close. But literally the first professional astrology reading I ever did for a client was former NHL player Dustin Penner. So he had an open mind. I was like, bro, let's try it. He's kind of like one of the truthers now. So it's kind of funny that happened. He went from being my favorite hockey player because I only watched one season of hockey, and it was the 2012 NHL playoffs where the Kings were an 8 seed and they ended up winning. So I have obscure hockey knowledge of one season, and really just a few weeks of hockey, if we're being honest. The playoffs are not the whole thing. So anyways, number one Kings fan. And I went to a hockey game once in San Jose. San Jose Sharks were playing Tampa Bay Lightning, and I sat the front row behind the glass, and it was so bougie. The general manager and my dad were college friends, so I just got hooked up with these great ass tickets, and it was amazing. But anyways, there's so much about what sports have brought me in my life. I wanted to pay homage to them because a lot of the times in the spiritual community, I would say, y'all motherfuckers, you ruin everything because you just say weird words, scare people, and make people think that the new earth is something that is forming and that they have to buy a ticket to in order to jump on. You guys could be a little bit better. You don't have to do anything to ascend to this new earth would be a much better message than just telling people there's a new earth forming. And if you're spiritual enough, you'll get there. That's how I got started in spirituality. Mariah and I have a podcast coming in 2025, as well as a spiritual course about how not to lose your mind when you're going through a spiritual awakening journey. It's called, well, no, I'm not going to announce it. I'll announce it in my magazine and winter solstice. I'm over here just divulging all the secrets and we're not even, supposed to be talking about this yet. But the best part about what we do is being able to help people and assist people getting to where they need to go. So I'm 100% here for people sharing their spiritual journeys and their stories, and astrology can help with that. And the more that you learn about it, the better the experience. But it can really freak you out the first time that you see your astrology chart because it looks like alien babble. In fact, some of the New Agers should know this, actually, that Dolores Cannon, which is an incredible author if you haven't checked her out already. I have a lot of her books. Wait, back here. Yeah, back there's Convoluted Universe. Back there is my Bridgerton collection. Do not judge me. Also, my great-grandmother's diary from 1935. I have a day-by-day account of what she was doing in 1935, and I think that's incredible. So a lot of things in my life are just very all over the place, but the one thing that I have been able to do is put my spiritual journey into words. Understand that I went from a very, what people would call 3D, which is the regular world, the muggle world. I went from a very 3D job thinking that nothing outside of what I could see was real or existed. The paranormal kind of haunted me my whole life, but I didn't really ever give much to it. And then I found out with astrology, all of this makes sense. So it's been really cool to transform people's lives and my own, especially. I learn every single time I pull up a chart. Just having my voice heard is a big part of my healing process. And knowing that my voice matters was something that I had to stop using for sports and talking about other people's accomplishments and really talk about the things that I love and the things that I want to share. So that's what I'm going to do with you. We're going to zip right over here. Zero transition. This is Gorilla Streaming. You're welcome. Now we're looking at the NFL opener chart. Okay. So we talked about me enough. We're good. I'm going to start smoking some amazing flower and continuing my amazing journey with cannabis, because that was part of my Saturn return as well. Right now, what we are looking at on the left, I believe, I don't know what you guys are doing. You could be looking at this upside down for all I know. We are looking at tonight's kickoff. Okay. So when we look at an astrology chart, I wish I had the little like pointer thing that they could do on the like screen for NFL. Soon. Don't you worry. We are looking at the kickoff chart, which happens to be, if you know anything about astrology, the kickoff chart is, of course, tonight's game kickoff. And that's the chart we're going to use to compare the teams to and everything. But this is also the season kickoff for the NFL season. So it's like, you can't look at the NFL kickoff chart as just tonight's game, although I really want to because it's perfect. I say that because I work with degrees specifically, and it's gonna be a good time. We're at a Virgo degree of Pisces rising with that 6th degree right there. I'm going to be showing you guys along the way a book. I don't know why I said it like that. A book. A very old book. It's not that old, but damn, do I use it a lot. Okay, that is the spine. The back of it, it was, I think this is the 1990s edition. I'm not sure. But whatever. It's the best book in the world. It's the only book you ever need if you're working with the Sabian symbols or degree theory astrology. It's incredible. It's 360 Degrees of Wisdom by Linda Hill. One of my favorite astrologers of all time. And when you are lucky enough to get to communicate with them, because let's be real, I read a lot of old shit and those people are dead as shit and I can't talk to them. What am I going to do? Like, do a seance? No. I don't know where this Abraham Lincoln news came from, by the way. I do need to do some more digging on that one. I just posted his chart on my Twitter, and I guess Abraham Lincoln was sharing a bed with a dude. Whatever. So I looked at the transits of this announcement being made, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But back to the point. This is the best book ever. And it's interesting that we have this Pisces rising, because that means that the chart and the season of the 2024-2025 NFL season is going to be ruled by Jupiter. So naturally, when we look at what is going to be happening for the time ahead, we got to break it down. So I'm going to just start going into it. If you don't know what the fuck I'm saying, I promise by the end of this, I don't know if you just want me to tell you what the score is already or what's going to happen, but I think we should just go through this naturally. And if you're patient enough to get there with me, you will be rewarded. I don't know with what, but just with knowledge, and that should be enough. All right. And if you bet on the game and you win, cool. Some people tip me, some people don't. With the Super Bowl, I correctly, by the way, if you missed it, I correctly predicted the Chiefs to win by 3 points. It was the most tooth and nail, or whatever the fuck that saying is. How about nail biting experience? That game was insane. It was Super Bowl mastery. I loved every minute of it, mostly because I was right. It was great. I predict my first Super Bowl prediction that I did breakdown by breakdown and a blog post of, I was right about. So that one, I woke up on Sunday during sun hour and worked on that. And while I was working on it, I looked at I never told anybody. Amanda is actually the one that inspired me to do this show. Just a quick shout out to, you'll see her, Sophia Nova. Please check out her channel. Does so many collective readings that are very, very poignant and spot on. So highly recommended. But Amanda had asked me a question in the prediction thread when I was so overwhelmed and overstimulated, I couldn't answer any more questions. So I'm answering it 7 months later, no big deal. When I was looking at that Super Bowl chart, the moon was at 21 degrees Pisces. That is the same degree as Patrick Mahomes' Saturn. And I had in my head 2 + 1 is 3, and they're going to win by 3 points. That's it. It's not because it was a moon ruled chart. It was a sun ruled chart. But I just, 3 had been sticking in my head a lot. And I'll just go ahead and say it. The number that's been sticking out the most to me leading up to this was a very wild process, just because, like I said, I normally plan these things ahead, work on them on Sundays during sun hour. And that's when I do my predictions. And if it's the week before, or if it's a Thursday game like it is tonight, I'll do it on a Sunday. But with this live reading, I'm like, fuck it. I'll just do this reading live, which is really fun. So we're going to look at Jupiter with this chart, because 6 degrees Pisces. Please, I'm going to mute this. Six degrees Pisces. Like I said, Virgo degree of Pisces. Let's check it out in the book. Okay, so we have the Sabian symbol of this degree is going to be right here, and there we go. The focus is a little bit all over the place because I like to mess with things when I shouldn't. 6 degrees Pisces is the karmic degree. So when we look at degrees, yes, 6 degrees is the actual degree. So that would be the karmic degree. The exact degree is the karmic degree. The degree rounded up is the truth degree, which is 7 degrees Pisces. And then you have the solution degree. And the solution degree here would be 8 degrees Pisces, which I'm very familiar with because it is the degree of my Mercury. And this degree of Pisces is known as the whistleblowing degree. So what we have kicking off the NFL season, ladies and gentlemen, is the whistleblowing degree of Pisces being the answer to the entire chart. No big deal. What could the whistleblowing be about, you might ask? Well, let's go to 19 degrees Gemini, which is where Jupiter is currently. And I go to 19 degrees Gemini because Jupiter is there, because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. And got to start there. Got to start somewhere. And it's linked. Surprising. One thing you'll learn about astrology is it's all fucking linked. That's it. You want my astrology 101? Everything's connected. It's all linked. You can just do whatever you want and it'll happen anyways. The end. 19 degrees Gemini is represented by a museum. In a museum, a large archaic volume reveals a traditional wisdom. So there's a big ass book somewhere. This is now national treasure. The NFL has to steal the Declaration of Independence. That is not what I'm saying. I'm so sorry. I'll focus. 19 degrees Gemini in a museum, a large archaic volume reveals a traditional wisdom. It's very much, this is a Libra degree of Gemini. So Libra-ish energy, teamwork. 20 degrees Gemini, which is the truth degree of the Jupiter placement, which is ruling this NFL season's chart, is a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. Very cool. That's the truth to it. A lot of people talking, a lot of people conversing. It's like conversations around food. Gemini, 21 degrees. This is the solution and the quest degree, as Linda Hill calls it. So once again, we're looking at the fourth house, 19-degree Gemini chart ruler that is ruling the NFL season's chart this year. And it is happening to be in the fourth house of secrets. And with 21-degree Gemini, I like the dramatic buildup, so just deal with it. We are looking at the symbol for a tumultuous labor demonstration. If I were to be a betting person, if I were to do that, I would say that the NFL is looking at some changes this year, to put it mildly. Very, very interesting just because, we have such, I would say, a problem with athletes and CTE and their medical treatments post NFL fame. A lot of what I did when I worked in NFL marketing was trying to have athletes secure their financial future outside of the NFL. This was also, all this copper water. I'm obsessed with this thing. I'll drink out of it for the rest of my life. I don't give a shit. It's so good. I'm like, all of you Stanley Cup people and your lead poisoning, drink from copper. You'll feel better. It's Kangen water in a copper bottle. I don't know if I've been multi-level marketed or if I've just found the biohack cure. I don't know. Anyways, we are looking at Jupiter here. But the NFL has not been known for taking care of its players post NFL career. A lot of players go into the NFL and they're like, they're incredible. They win championships and make millions of dollars for people, and they come out of it with head injuries and a fucked up body. Not because I'm currently with a former pro athlete, both of the people that I love near and dear, the two most impactful men in my life, my dad and my other half, are both Scorpio Mars. They're both college athletes. They're both like these, could have gone pro in anything they wanted. My dad went with rugby, which in the United States is hard to go pro with, but they were semi-pro club team. So that was cool. But I've just been around athletes so much that I know that at a certain point their body breaks down. Like if you have any level of sport, like, those guys that are at dive bars that are like, I would have won state in 81 if my arm would have gone out. That's a real thing. It happens on every level. So if you think a guy not being able to win state is bad, think about a guy not able to pick up his own children and also has internal suffering problems going on because of his brain being exposed to traumatic impact over and over again, just so some people could be entertained. Like there's ethical problems all over professional sports and professional everything. So not to burst anyone's bubble, I mean, this is mostly Roger Goodell's problem to deal with, but, I do see this year being something, not necessarily a strike. I would see, but Uranus and Taurus, like, you just never know. But there's definitely some personal lessons here, and there's definitely a lot of shining responsibility you're going to see. There's all sorts of superstardom coming out, and I don't want to like gush too much about one side or the other. We are going to start off looking at the Ravens side of things over the Chiefs. But I want to preface this with, I don't pay attention to anything like injury reports, money lines. I don't pay attention to the odds, stats, announcements. Like when I say I went from watching ESPN in my sleep and streaming SportsCenter 24/7 a day and knowing all the breaking news and being around the clock, I was miss SportsCenter. Okay. I went from that to refusing to watch commercials because they're mind-numbingly terrible. Like with the moment you stop watching commercials, you go back to it and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are they trying to sell us? This is so fucking weird. Like the pharmaceutical ads are my favorite, so can't wait for those. If any streaming service is listening, if I could pay any amount of money to watch live sports with zero commercials, I would. I accidentally purchased NFL Sunday Ticket, so I'd probably pay for that premium package too. That was an expensive explanation. Sorry about that. But it's very, very interesting to see how, much we're being sold to during these things. So, if some NFL players can get some back pay and some back health insurance, and, if they work through a new labor movement, or if this season brings forward any injuries, we're looking at midheaven for the kind of public vibe. So that's going to be at the top of the chart at 17 degrees. I'm pointing like you guys can see that. At 17 degrees Sagittarius with the arrow pointing up. It's in between the 9th and the 10th house. If you are not familiar, that is the public image and persona. So we're going to look at 17 degrees Sagittarius, which I did just flip to, but so the karmic degree of the public perception and reputation here is an Easter sunrise service draws a large crowd. So it's very much like a gathering of renewal. It's going to feel like, holy shit, we're back, you guys. This NFL season, we're back. It's a time of spiritual rebirth. That's the karmic degree of it. The truth degree is tiny children playing in sunbonnets. It's very much about all you have to do is play. This is a playful degree, 18 degrees Sagittarius. That is a Virgo degree. So it's about little kids just playing around, and, the sunbonnets are protecting them. So that's the protection, the physical protection. To me, that would represent like helmets. So who knows? The 19 degree of Sagittarius, which is the quest degree, if you're going by Linda Hill's terms, or for me, it's the solution degree. It's what unlocks this placement. Is 19 degrees Sagittarius, which is pelicans disturbed by the garbage of people move their young to a new habitat. This is very much, yes, Six of Cup vibes. We are seeing like the joyfulness combined with disgust. Like that is literally Six of Cups. We're going from the joyfulness of children playing and like being protected and this like very nostalgic feel to pelicans disturbed by the garbage of people. They're disgusted. These ancient archaic birds are like, fuck these people. They're disgusting. Let's get out of here. And it's like being disgusted with your surroundings. And that's another indication to me that it's like very Beastie Boys energy this season. Like they're not going to fucking put up with it. Or maybe that's Twisted Sister. We're not going to take it, fight for your right. And we're not going to take it. It's very close to me. So yeah, that's my initial observation of just the NFL season ahead. There are so many planets. We're looking at Mars and Cancer current transits today. Mars and Cancer at 0 degrees, which is allegedly the exact degree of, I believe, Taylor Swift's moon. I'd have to look that up. So yes, she will probably be there tonight, and she will be behind closed doors as much as possible. With I think what we're going to see in the Chiefs chart, it'll show it more. So I'll get there later. But the descendant is funny because we're looking at 6 degrees Virgo, which I can tell you off the top of my head is a merry-go-round, and it's very much about like back and forth energy. So you're going to, yes, see, look, Linda, if you're watching this, I've been studying. Yes. But 7 degrees, we got 6 degrees of merry-go-round. It's going to be back and forth. Like the relation, it's a lot of like the Ravens and Chiefs aren't exactly the nicest rivalry. Like Baltimore's hungry this year. They've been hungry for a minute. Lamar Jackson has been trying to prove something. So like I said, with my limited football knowledge, I found out the other day that Russell Wilson's at Pittsburgh, and I started laughing. Like I couldn't stop. And it's going to happen again. But with 7 degrees Virgo, which is the truth degree to this NFL season, is represented by one of my favorite degrees of Virgo, a harem. I don't know if you guys can see that. Once again, I screwed up the focus on here before. You're welcome. But Vesta is on the descendant, and we also have the sun nestled in right there, 7 degrees from the descendant at 13 degrees Virgo. So we do have to look at that because it's going to be important. But the 8th degree of Virgo, which is the solution to the descendant, is a girl taking her first dancing instruction. So yes, women will be a large part of this NFL season, whether you like it or not. It's crazy how that works. 13 degrees Virgo, which is the which is the sun degree, which is the karmic degree of the sun, is a powerful statesman overcomes a state of political hysteria. Kind of funny. This degree always reminds me of Trump. They have a sense of authority and others will listen to what they have to say. A word from them can turn situations around with very little apparent effort. Who knows? Who knows? A lot of people come to these events now, and because of the hype around the Chiefs and Taylor Swift, we've gotten a lot of celebrities coming out at these things now. Who's going to be the next one, the next celebrity couple? 14 degrees Virgo, which is the truth degree to the sun, is finely lettered names and mysterious lines are seen. It is a family tree. Very easily could be a Virgo-based family being the center of things this year too. Mahomes is a Virgo, just pointing that out there. But the solution degree and the kind of like unraveling and the how to work with this energy degree is represented by Virgo 15 degrees, which is a fine lace ornamental handkerchief. Yes. So I don't know what it is about, like, I like immediately, just because of who I am as a person, I'm going to immediately think like someone throwing a handkerchief, very like medieval looking, like, hello, here you go. Play great. Here's my handkerchief. That's so old school, but hey, whatever. I do want to get into the comparative charts because, you know, I went viral for my synastry work with two people that were just seen on, you know, TV together and seen flirting with each other. So naturally I had to be nosy and pull up their synastry. And while Taylor Swift's birth time is not confirmed, they still have Mars and Venus conjunct and Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter synastry. So suck it. I couldn't believe so many people came at me for that. Like, we don't even have positive birth time. When I meet her, I'll find out. There we go. We are jumping into the Ravens and tonight's game. So we're finally talking about tonight, right? So, funny enough, the Ravens have a Libra moon, which will be prominent tonight with the Libra moon already going. We are in full Libra moon phase. And the main thing that I do when I look at these charts, like, it's not something that I consciously just start rattling off, usually like out loud. So please bear with me. I'm trying to do this while smoking amazing weed and enjoying myself and apparently being live to over 100 of you. So with all that being said, let's look at the first house. Like, we already covered the angles ish. I didn't talk about 17 degrees Gemini, but we will, just because the solution to the IC, which is the ruler of the fourth house, the solution degree to it is actually the Jupiter, which is the chart ruler. So we'll get there. First of all, looking at the first house, the Ravens are going through their Saturn return. Their Saturn return is a couple degrees off of Mahomes. So that's interesting that they might be learning quite the large lesson from Mahomes tonight. Their Venus is at 0 degrees Aries, and then their south node. So they're having the reverse nodal return, which is pretty cool. You know, it's already gone by and the node's pretty separated from there. But looking at the first house, Saturn being there with Venus, Saturn in the first house, very responsible, very duty-based, very responsibility-based. There we go. I can say things like a mature adult. And it's at the same degree as my North Node. So this is like, if the Ravens ever wanted to hire an astrologer, they have the perfect synastry to do so. And then you see Venus at the 0 degrees. Whenever you see anything at a 0 point, they're used to being transformed quite a bit. Tonight is going to feel deeply personal for them. And we'll see, you know, with the Chiefs too. They're not free from this energy. It is a deeply personal lesson. It's something about the things that they have created and put into this world. So we'll see how that works for them. Tonight's game, Vertex and North Node are conjunct that Venus. So, you know, there's definitely a boost for them and for their, I believe like this is like first starting energy. And when I look at the first house in football games, I kind of look at it like the beginning. How's it going to go? Is it going to show out? Yeah, there might be some with Saturn retrograde being conjunct Saturn in their natal chart. It's like, I think they could revisit some past experiences with the Chiefs because let's be real, the Ravens and the Chiefs have had some experiences. And here we also see the South Node. So this energy is very familiar for him. The South Node being conjunct Chiron. Head injuries are a theme just because anytime you have 22 degree Chiron, 22 degrees is a kill or be killed degree. Aries rules the head and the mental process. So it's like, if you are not careful, if you are too aggressive, if you are too quick on your feet and your feet do not match your head, having planets in the last part of Pisces and the very beginning part of Aries is like a death and rebirth cycle in the chart. So it's like you can feel like you've lived many lifetimes over, or that you die and get born again very quickly, like in your natural, wherever. Unfortunately, with a lot, I guess I failed to mention this, a lot of the sports charts with the teams, I don't have exact times that these teams are formed. Like with the Chiefs, I'm going off the time that they were announced coming to Kansas City. So that was a press release, not necessarily a decision made on that day at a certain time. Like if Lamar Hunt was like, yeah, let's move the team to Kansas City at 5:10 p.m., on May 22nd, 1963, I that would have been great. I would love that information. And if I ever do find that, it'll be like a huge fucking gift. As someone who recently found their birth time and as a professional astrologer, shout out to my grandmother, Florence. I talked about it in the summer solstice issue of the Northern, which is my magazine. But like, excuse me, here's some more water. There we go. Talk about my grandma get choked up, but because I was smoking weed. Makes sense. We're going to continue. All right. Back, I think my voice is holding up there. So, moving on into I love Mariah. She's so funny in this live chat. Very grateful that you guys are here once again. And it's not like I've forgotten about the chat. I just like want to make sure that I'm doing this somewhat linear in a linear fashion. There we go. So we do go into second house after that South Node. It starts at 22 degrees Aries. So once again, that Chiron is loud. When you have a placement right on the beginning of the second house, it's like, that is a very intense energy. Chiron being retrograde there, we're going to get the lesser parts of it. So it could just be a clarifying moment where somebody, gets paid because of, the way that they might have meet like some accomplishment in their contract tonight. That could also be a boost there. You can look at it from all positive sides too. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be head injuries, but we are talking about football here. So I have to be realistic. It's like there will be people on the field hurt, but with Uranus retrograde in the third house in Taurus, 27 degrees Taurus, we are seeing, the continuation of a lot of radicalized changes to transportation and all that. Necessarily here, as far as mental state of the game, I feel like the game will feel like the mental strength or the advantage maybe is swinging. Maybe like the demeanor or the attitude or the mindset tends to change a lot. Stubborn as fuck is Taurus energy. So when you have a third house ruled by Taurus, we're looking at fixed earth energy. And do you think that something labeled fixed earth likes change or movement? Hint, no. Like it would be down to the fact that somebody doesn't even want to like change the type of pens they use to write because they are so stuck on using the same one. So if you are Pisces rising and happen to have, Taurus ruling your third house, then, you could be stubbornly clinging to things sometimes. So not necessarily the case here. We are still looking at a football chart and not a person. So, this also hands, I don't have to say that hands are going to be important tonight. Like, duh. But with Gemini ruling the fourth house, hands are crucial here. Jupiter is conjunct Patrick Mahomes midheaven. So if you are looking for him to be falling down tonight, he is only going to be stronger and only getting stronger as he goes. So seeing that Mercury, we do have to look at Mercury, seeing how that's the ruler of the fourth house. It's in Leo, 25 degrees. So that is an Aries degree. In the sixth house of physical health. So we're not going to jump too far ahead, but having a sixth house Mercury for a football game, it means that their heart and their mind has to be in it, or it's just going to feel fake as fuck. If you've ever met an Aries faking how they're doing by putting a mask on, that's what it'll feel like. It'll feel like it's like a publicity stunt that they're okay. But going back to the fourth house, we see Jupiter and Mars here. Jupiter is sitting at that labor demonstration degree of Gemini, like I was talking about. And Mars has just kind of been causing some things. Mars ingress into Cancer was like, I felt like staying off the internet is kind of my jam anyways these days. Like, I want to pop up and go live and talk about things and then disappear. Like, the state of affairs with people fighting and the argumentativeness. Anyone with Capricorn placements right now, give yourself some grace, because I have Uranus and Saturn at 0 and 2 degrees Capricorn, and Mars was just like, hey, you wanna fight? You wanna talk about your physical health and feel how, your bones, and if you're gonna get mad, you're gonna feel it in them. Is that what you want? And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. Thank you, Mars. Thanks to Jamal, aka Young Desperado on Twitter, I had the greatest transits reading, so I knew this was happening today, that Mars was going to be opposite my natal Uranus and Saturn. So I had a reminder on my phone. So shout out to the astrologers for the astrologer. They keep life going. So we're looking at Mars in the fourth house. Mars is actually going to be conjunct Mahomes' moon. So if you want any more reason that this man is going to go off, I know we're talking about the Ravens. Sorry. I should have prefaced this with, I'm incredibly biased, born and raised in Kansas City. The Chiefs are my life. But, if you never hear me predict against them, that's because I believe in them so much, and that's okay. Maybe my blind faith is helping them win. Yes. Has nothing to do with the generational athletic talent that is involved. Going into the fifth house, we are going to be looking at the moon for the fifth house. Once again, Ravens don't have anything here. It's not that they have empty energy here. The second, third, fourth, fifth house is less filled. And with the ascendant being in the third house, since we don't have the time for the Ravens, I set them all at noon. That is just like, maybe that's the ascendant. We don't know. Yes, Gracey's mind. It's lit. So fifth house is going to be ruled by the moon, and the moon is in the seventh house in Libra at 15 degrees. So handy dandy 360 Degrees of Wisdom by Linda Hill. Go to sabiansymbols.com and buy this book if you want your life to get better. No, that's so rude. If you want your life to get better, please understand Sabian symbols. So what are we seeing with the karmic degree of the moon here? Libra 15 degrees is represented by circular paths. We are seeing no real outcome and no sense of final destination is the karmic plight. We go into the truth degree, which is the rounded up degree, which is a lot of people, what they use for degree theory is exact, but what they use for Sabian symbols is rounded up. So I combine them both because I'm a wizard. After the storms of winter, a boat landing stands in need of reconstruction. Okay. All right. What does that have to do with football? I don't know. I'm just kidding. Circular paths, going around in circles, no real outcome. This is in the seventh house, and it's close to Lilith, it's close to Juno, Venus, South Node, Vertex, Sun. We're in this seventh house stellium deep, okay? After the storms of winter, a boat landing stands in need of reconstruction. This is the first game of the year. We might see the Ravens be a rusty old boat from winter that needs reconstruction. Hell, the Chiefs could look rusty. Do you think that we have not had a packed offseason? We've been busy. 17 degrees Libra, which is allegedly where the Ravens moon is. But once again, keep in mind, it's a noon chart, not an exact chart. 17 degrees Libra is represented by a retired sea captain watches the ships entering and leaving the harbor. I can tell you one thing for sure. Baltimore has harbors. Kansas City does not. There's one difference. What we're seeing here with this is a lot of boat talk, circular paths, after the storms of winter, retired sea captain, a lot of old people energy here. I feel like the olds are going to be front and center in a respectful way tonight. But something about like, you've been through some dangerous situations, you've survived through this. That's kind of what the creativity is going to be feeling in the fifth house tonight. We're looking at what this game is going to feel like because the fifth house represents hobbies, gambling, betting, lovers, children, because what's more fifth house Leo, which is fifth house is ruled by Leo, than having lovers, gambling, children, all in the same category, fuck it. It's perfect. We have a lot of creativity from the Chiefs side through all of the different plays that they've seen. But they've kind of set a new standard in the NFL. So maybe the Ravens are going to, hone in on that with their North Node being conjunct the moon as well as Chiron being there. But Chiron retrograde with in between Venus and the moon tonight should be really interesting with, like I said, nodes at birth time for the Ravens. We don't know the exact moon degree, but we can see Chiron and North Node both there in the seventh house. So it's going to be a balanced yet circular motion for the Ravens. Very interesting. Creativity wise, like I said, the fifth house, that's where I look for the games to see like what's going to be happening. If there was Saturn in there, I would say, it's going to be a little bit constricted creativity wise for the Ravens, but since they don't have Saturn there, I don't have to say that. Going on into the sixth house ruled by the sun, we're going to see that the sixth house is ruled by Virgo already. The sun is in Virgo. So it's very much a feeling like, Mercury invested being here for the game, at least, is very much a feeling of home, nourishment, mental. As long as they've eaten well, they'll be fine. Like either side, like they need to have a good meal before this and play from the heart, with Lilith in Leo in the sixth house. Your body can be a bit of where your rage gets taken out on. I have Lilith in Leo and mine is in the second house. So money is how I take out my anger. I will go spend an exorbitant amount of money and like justify it because of whatever shit I was doing. And so it's like justifying the means that you put your body, like the hell you put your body through, could be a theme here for the Ravens tonight. I don't want to read too much into it because once again, it's like Lilith and game charts. It's there just because I didn't take it out of my displayed chart points. But I'm not really pushing for it to be a huge theme. Going into the seventh house, we did talk about the stellium. We also talked about the descendant. The descendant is what kicks off the seventh house. So with the Ravens, we talked about Chiron, moon, North Node being in the seventh house. Very easily, the moon could be in the eighth house if it was a much later time that they formed the Ravens that day. I don't know. It's a Friday, so it was probably happened at 8 a.m. But once again, not going to pay attention to that. If you do happen to have like specific players, birth times and stuff, it does help. It does help to see. But unless you're doing a huge ass roster breakdown of every single player that's playing compared to the game, I don't know if you need that. So let's move on to seventh house and let's just see personal wise. The seventh house represents like one-on-one relationships, partnerships, contracts, It can be hidden enemies of sorts. It can also be very loud enemies of sorts. The 12th house is way more known as the hidden parts of things, but with enemies, counterparts, karmic, and, non eventful, it's all in the 7th house. So even if you don't have a karmic relationship with somebody, if you have synastry in the 7th house, like a Chiron and a South Node or something, that doesn't mean that like necessarily past life, but you could learn from their experience. So here with the South Node in Libra and Venus being close by to the Ravens Chiron, they could have some leg flare-ups, or they could find their feet. I don't really, like I said, I'm not paying attention to the traditional game previews, so everything that I'm talking about today is like very much what I'm seeing in the chart. So yeah, we'll just continue doing that. Going into the 8th house, having that ruled by 22 degrees Libra, we look to Venus being in the 7th house for the game tonight. That's once again Travis Kelce, Libra. All of his planets are being activated tonight. So if he's not showing the fuck out, I don't know what to tell you. Ravens, just hold on for dear life, Going into the 8th house, like I said, ruled by Venus, that can be pretty touch and go, just because Venus, while, yes, you've heard of Venus, the love planet, Venus is also incredibly tumultuous. I learned my lesson about drinking water. I will continue to do so. And so we see Vesta and Pallas in here. Those are asteroids. And as much as I would love to go into the significance of them all, we're going to keep going. Going to the 9th house, which is, I look at the 8th house for gambling a lot of times. I guess I didn't really pay attention to that. 7th house is where I really find the stars of the show. Like 1st house represents self-importance and like responsibility and how the thing is going to feel personally sometimes. But the thing that I can see through like a lot of the 8th house stuff, when you shift from the 7th to the 8th, you're talking more about less of the one-on-one and more of the collective. The 8th house, I like to call it the house of OPP, other people's property, mind you, not the other words. I'm a lady, even though I've been cussing this whole time and smoking weed. Anyways, there's just like a lot of gambling, collective money energy here. So usually I look to see what that's all about. And with it being Venus ruled, and Venus is currently in Libra, I say it's in our favor. The money is in our favor, the collective's favor. Not necessarily going to be a surprising night tonight, betting wise. All right. And so 9th house is where I look for the traveling team, a lot of like their success. So for them to have Pluto conjunct Ceres in Sagittarius here in the 9th house, interesting. They might travel well, but it's like I'll just pull up the degrees of Sagittarius. I know the 3 degree Sagittarius by heart because it's the degree of my vertex, but I know the Sagittarius 2 is like white caps or something. So the ocean covered with white caps. So luckily they didn't have to travel by boat, I guess. But 2 degrees and degree theory is a power degree. So to have Pluto here, it is a pretty significant thing. And then we have the truth degree to that is 2 men playing chess, which is once again my vertex. Very cool. And then the solution degree is little children learning to walk with the encouragement of parents. They need a lot of nurture. I don't know what it is about legs, nurture, traveling, if there's like circulation problems, if there's blood flow problems, I don't know what it is, but Sagittarius ruling the ass and upper legs, those quads and hammies, who knows what this could be, but Ravens, you're going to have some traveling pains with that if you have not nourished yourself properly. That 5 degree of Sagittarius is the owl degree, an owl perched high up in a tree. And then the truth degree to that series is a game of cricket. And the solution degree is Cupid knocking at the door of a human heart. That's interesting. I have no idea how to tie that in, so I will just keep going. So in the 9th house, you could see some problems if they haven't been eating right, or if they haven't been feeding themselves right, or nurturing themselves properly. Ravens being malnourished. That's what I got for you in the 9th house. We go on to the 10th house, where we see tonight Ceres being met with the Jupiter of the Ravens at 8 degrees. Capricorn versus the 7 degrees. In the 10th house, having a 10th house Jupiter is something new to me. I just found out with the recent unearthing of my birth time that I mentioned that I have a 10th house Jupiter, and that explains so much because my dad and I have been so close my whole life, and it's like he's such a big, shadowy over figure of my life that's like, oh, okay. So I feel like this is like big, shadowy over figure of masculine energy here. Capricorn, Jupiter, very like big daddy energy. So we're having like just a minute for that Jupiter. I think they're going to show their skills. They're going to show their fortitude. I think they're going to have some glimpses of luck here and there. If we go to Capricorn, 8 degrees, it's bird in the house singing happily, and then an angel carrying a harp, and then an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. So it's very much like, I guess it's getting fed, the albatross and sailor, but it's very much like you can see how, one, birds are a theme, the birds in the house singing happily to the albatross. So it's perfectly fitting for the Ravens that they have a 8 degree Capricorn Jupiter. Anyways, but like their salvation here is coming from not listening to all the chirping, not listening to all the noise. If they are going to pull out something tonight and shock Arrowhead Stadium, it's going to come from the sheer will that is in their bones tonight. Capricorn does rule over the skin and bones. Going into the 11th house, which to me usually represents a team. I forgot to mention the 10th house is public image and career and reputation. So it's like a lot of what football players don't exactly like stake their lives on, or don't necessarily think about their public image or reputation all the time, but they're more thinking about the team. So for this to be the team's public image and reputation, knowing that, they do have an ability tonight in that 10th house spotlight to overcome the challenges of facing back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs in their home stadium. We'll see. We see in the 11th house, which I said represents to me the teams and the team structure and how they show up as a team in these charts. To me, it's 24 degree Mercury being right there, conjunct Neptune, and then Uranus being close by. Tonight, Pluto retrograde, 29 degrees Capricorn. Very powerful degree. It's a secretive degree and all that. It's represented technically the 29 degrees. Everyone's always like, it's a secret meeting of men. And I'm like, 29 degrees Capricorn is a woman reading tea leaves. So it's psychic as fuck and has nothing to do with men. But the 30 degrees of Capricorn is a secret meeting of men behind closed doors. It's very much like Illuminati energy. So tonight, they're not really going to be doing much to, transform themselves as like a team. I can see that they could have sudden changes as a team. They could have replacements very quickly, but like rose-colored glasses could come off with a certain teammate. They could easily be like, fuck this guy, because Mercury and Neptune being met with Capricorn or Pluto and Capricorn close by, they could very easily see the wool coming off of the eyes of the players. A coach very easily could be thrown into the spotlight tonight in a negative way. It could be like we see a different side of one of their coaches, or, we see a negative coaching interaction impact their game. The biggest thing I want to talk about is going into the 12th house. Tonight's game is a unexpected thunderstorm. It's at the degree, so tonight could just have random rainfall. I know I live in Kansas City, okay? I know I have the weather channel here, but I'm saying that tonight all I've seen on the news that I have looked at is that there could be sudden rainfall. I say yes. I say absolutely yes. Not that I'm sitting here trying to be a meteorologist, but if I could, I would say yeah. Definitely see unexpected thunderstorms. Rain games are hard. We know that, but it's also part of football. So, looking into the 12th house, we see a lot of action here for the Ravens. Not necessarily a good thing. When I see a lot of 12th house action in sports, I see isolation, I see desperation, I see people moving like molasses. And to see that Mars at 25 degrees, which is an Aries degree, in the 12th house, it sucks because the sun's right there next to it. Usually the sun and Mars in a game chart is like, or in a team chart is just perfect, you know, and it's a little bit separated 5 degrees away, you know. Before I got into like degree theory and, well, really before I got into actual astrology, a lot of what I was doing was just looking at the planet in the sign. So it's like if I saw the sun and Mars both in Aquarius, I'm like, wow, that's powerful. But now I'm like, if it's not within 5 or 6 degrees, I'm like, okay, this is still powerful, yet there's levels to it. And I think the biggest thing about degree theory that's helped me with my process so far is how specific it is and how incredibly accurate it can be. You know, still developing my practice every single day, still working every single day on developing what it is that I want to do and what my legacy will be with sports astrology. I'm just letting you guys know how I break it down. If you guys have another method that you want to talk about or ask about or, you know, chime in about, do it. I don't care. You can't talk over me because I'm the only one talking. Isn't that nice? There's so many levels to the 12th house placements here with a game chart. I think that it's, to me, like a sign of doomsday. However, since we're wrapping up the Ravens, let's go to the Chiefs. Because we have a 12th house Saturn right there. I'm like, I don't know if that shows up, but I thought that was cool that my mouse just got bigger. Anyways, we have a 12th house Saturn in the Chiefs chart. So we'll compare it all at the end here. But switching over to the Chiefs, you know, they have a very prominent planet that dictates a lot of outcomes nestled into the 12th house that a lot of people shy away from. I know that Robert Phoenix was talking about how he's going to start focusing a lot more on the 12th house recently. And I'm like, yes, we need more 12th house conversation because people look at it like this big scary thing. For the longest time, I thought I had a 12th house moon. So I was like really into the 12th house and understanding it simply because when your chart ruler is in the 12th house, you kind of got to pay attention to it, right? Even though it doesn't want you to. So now I only have Chiron in there. Only. That's the fucking enough. But here we see the 12th house being very much like, we're going to have some problems and we're going to encounter obstacles. It's how your mindset chooses to evaluate them. So when, like I said, when we look at the tri-wheel chart, I'll explain that more. We'll go over it more. But once again, going through the first house, we see Chiron conjunct Saturn retrograde, right? That's the first thing we see with the Chiefs. And then we see Jupiter in the first house in between, or not in between, after the North Node and part of Fortune. So Jupiter at 10 degrees would be a Capricorn ruled degree. And that would indicate very much the sense of climbing and going forward. Like Aries and Capricorn are very, very similar in the ways that they are all about the self. And Capricorn is isolated self. And to me, Aries is like isolated mental process. Luckily for me, my sun in Aries is exactly square my Saturn in Capricorn. So this balance of energy is something I deal with every fucking day of my life. It's great. The biggest message though is to balance what you can do and what you think you can do and meet in the middle. So the Chiefs are really going to have to be careful with their feet, ankles, huge tonight, as well as their mental process, their mental health, their mental approach to this game. Like I said, talked about first house, broke it all down through the Ravens. I'm just going to keep going because I got a pregame. Like, I'm not going to get drunk or anything, but I'm going to sit down and watch some football because it's the only football I watch. And if the only team that I watch is the Chiefs, I'm pretty blessed. Anyways, going into the second house, we see that the Chiefs have their Venus at 4 degrees here. Chiron retrograde is right here at 22 degrees in the second house. We did mention the head injury part with the Chiefs not having any Aries in the second house with Chiron right there. I'm like, hey, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it's definitely something less likely for the Chiefs to worry about. Their Venus there at 4 degrees is a Cancer degree. In the second house, they need to nurture their stomachs and eat right once again before this game. I don't know why it just keeps yelling. Like I keep hearing like the eating right thing before any sort of physical activity, especially when you have Taurus placements. Good Lord. And not only do they have Taurus Venus, they have Taurus Mercury retrograde and Taurus moon as well. With that being said, the second house Venus is going to help a lot with the gambling side of things. So you're looking at the personal money, the personal belongings, the personal values of the Chiefs are working along with the energies of the second house, which is money and luxury and goods and physical goods. So I feel like sales will be through the roof tonight. I feel like money and accolades are going to be through the roof tonight. And then we go to the third house, which starts at 23 degrees Taurus, which is exactly where the Chiefs Mercury retrograde is. They might be a little bit slow at first, okay? They're warming the fuck up. They're warming up from back to back. Like, we had the shortest off season. And yes, I'm saying we and being like, let me do this astrology breakdown. I'm basically doing an astrology breakdown to show you why the Chiefs are going to win. No, but like the part about astrology that I love so much and the part about sports astrology that I love so much is that regardless of me thinking, the Chiefs are untouchable, this all tells a story that they could very easily not be. So I'm going to continue telling the story, I promise, but I will be a little bit biased, so please forgive me. All right. So, going in the third house, mental health, communication, short distance travel. I hope everyone's car started on the way to the stadium today. There's definitely sort of an excitement with Mercury retrograde at the beginning of the third house because saying that they're going to start slow, yeah, okay, every team is going to start slow. They're gonna, like, the way that the Chiefs operate and the way that this game will work is that the Chiefs will do some dumb shit and then they'll like move on through it and be like, look at all the brilliant shit we've done now. All that stupid stuff doesn't matter. It's kind of just like their signature. So I don't want to just like put that out there and like place that on them and say, this is exactly what's going to happen. But knowing Mercury retrograde helps kind of see the bigger and broader perspective of things. They can kind of slow things down. That's the beauty of having Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, is that you can always refocus and revamp and redo things. I love Mercury retrograde in people's charts just because I have a Pisces Mercury, so everything I do is backwards and slow down, and it's great. But with their moon right there too, and then their sun as well in the third house at 0 degrees Gemini. Love that for the Chiefs. Uranus in the third house is, close to that moon. So if anything, the Chiefs' emotions are going to be running very high, very volatile. You're going to see a lot of high speed emotional reactions. And if you're not familiar with sports, like NFL has really, really, really restricted the physicality of this game. And there's pros and cons to that because, of course, less injuries, less death-defying, horrible, wrecking bodily harm happening to these athletes. Also, the game is not played the same way. So a lot of the times when we're talking about being slowed down, it could even be commercial breaks. It's at the wrong time. Like someone's getting warmed up and they're heated and they're like ready to go out there. And then it's like, pause for commercial. So I think that there's levels just to being like aware of what the Chiefs are going to go through mentally. Going into the fourth house, and it's ruled by Mercury, and their Mercury's natally retrograde. It doesn't really mean that they're going to have a worse time with it, because the game chart is what we're looking at here. The fourth house is ruled by Mercury of the game chart, and that's at 25 degrees Leo. They do happen to have their Mars right there. So I feel like once they get in a rhythm, once they get working, it's going to be lights out. And the best part about a lot of these I would say the event charts is that you can look into the future here with it as much as you want. And you can also look to like the Chiefs placement in the 5th house, the creativity thing with the North node there that happens to be trine Patrick Mahomes' Saturn. So it's like there's a little boost all along if you like piece it all together. So I'm kind of like, I'm not doing you guys a disservice, but I could go into Andy Reid's chart, Patrick Mahomes' chart, Travis Kelce's chart. I would do all the public charts. There's no need to give birth times to people. Once again, if you missed the ethics portion of our conversation, replay it, rewind it, watch it a few times. There's enough. I will no longer repeat myself. But going with the 3rd house to the 4th with the Mercury ruled 4th house, we're going to see things coming from the heart. Whether Taylor Swift is there or not, we're going to see things coming from the heart. And once again, there could be developments I don't even know about. I'm live. If things are happening live and I don't know about them, that's because I'm live. So you can do your own research. You can figure it out. You get part of why I do these previews is so you can kind of like follow along with the game and know what's going to happen. And then you can kind of see, like, I promise astrology does help dictate some things. And I might not be right with my prediction. I might just be incredibly biased Chiefs fan that happens to love talking about astrology and wants to evaluate all their games. And that could be where this show goes, but that's the beauty of it because it's my show. So I get to dictate where it goes. So if this is a continual thing and I look at all the Chiefs games for the rest of the year, awesome. I can't wait to have that. If it's just an NFL seasonal kickoff, cool. It's kind of up to you guys whether or not I like continue doing the live breakdowns because I don't know if they're helpful. I don't know if people like them. We'll see. This is my first one and I know it's helping someone somewhere, so I'll just keep going. But then a lot of the things that we're looking at in the 4th house and 5th house are kind of the similar, like, yeah, you got to be good with your hands. You got to be good mentally. They're going to be doing it from the heart. If there's love involved, and expect it to be the most inspired performance ever. But behind closed doors with no major placements in the 4th house, I'm not really seeing a lot of action here. So I'm hoping that the secrets and the whatever else could be happening behind closed doors with the Chiefs and the home team advantage with Mars being in the 4th house. I did want to mention that just before I moved on to the 5th house. The 4th house is where I look at the home team too. So with Mars and Jupiter in the 4th house, that's also another indication that the Chiefs are going to win. I'm so glad that this is how I can like explain myself and break it down because you guys have been great. And I can see the chat. So hi everyone. This is live, so I am going to continue going as fast as I can so we can like get to watching the game, which is the good part. Still have a few hours, thank God. Couple hours. An hour, 2 hours and 20 minutes. All right. 5th house, once again, ruled by the moon. Creativity is huge here. We talked about all the bird conversations around that moon degrees, the 15, 16, 17 degrees of Libra. So that'll be interesting. I don't know what birds have to do with tonight, but I also, like when I predicted Rihanna's pregnancy announcement at the Super Bowl, I think a couple years ago, I was like, I don't know what this means, but I'll get back to football. And the next thing you know, I was predicting a karmic relationship debuting at the halftime show. Who knew? So looking at the creativity, we're looking at knowing that the Chiefs have their North node here. Okay. So like nodal energy, 5th house, there's going to be a magnetism, you know, you can't really slow down Mahomes once he has something in his head. It's electric. Regardless of how much I love astrology, physics, mathematics, astrology, none of it can explain how Mahomes does what he does. So when I say that like the Chiefs being able to rely on him to show up and show up loudly and be the creative force that he is, like that's a gift. I was here in 2017. That's when my ESPN Kansas City show debuted actually. And I got to do the NFL draft kind of preview thing on my show. And while everyone else in Kansas City was like, oh, we went to Deshaun Watson, he's so cool, very few people were on the Mahomes train because Texas Tech, Big 12, he's not proven. He's just kind of a showboating quarterback. Not a lot of like NFL longevity, so he's proving everybody wrong with those scouting reports, which I love. Going into the sixth house of health, physical health, and well-being, the Chiefs have Pallas, Athena here, Mars, probably not their part of fortune because once again that requires burst time. Uranus here, all loosely conjunct Mercury and Vesta. This is going to feel like they're doing it for the right reasons. You know, the Chiefs have historically had some problems. If you haven't followed along the Kansas City Chiefs like I have my entire fucking life, like we're talking 1988, like I was at training camp as a baby. Not sure why. I think my dad was supposed to be watching me and he was like, let's go to training camp. It's beautiful out. So there's just like levels to it. I grew up going to games. I grew up Arrowhead or rugby games or God only knows where else, the Italian restaurants all over the place. Like I found out that Italian restaurant that I went to all the time as a kid is in Casino and I had no idea. And I'm like, oh, that's a mafia spot? That's weird. Not that my dad was involved with that, but we just really loved Italian food. So we would like go there all the time. I'm like, wow, that's wild. But it's like, you know, the things that inspire you and click with astrology, like they can't explain what's been going on in Kansas City because we've had such a rebirth and a renewal of energy since 2013. 2012, a man murdered himself in our parking lot after he had already taken the life of his partner. And I'm just sitting here like, that's what we rebuilt from. Like he killed himself in front of our, I believe, GM and head coach, an owner, possibly. I can't remember the full story. Sorry. But I remember that day because I was working and my friend was working on the competitive radio station and covering it. And I was just like, no fucking way. This is insane. So like when I say the Chiefs have rebuilt, we've rebuilt. And when people are like, oh, well, you know, karma's going to get the Chiefs. And I'm sitting here like, it did. It very much did in 2012. We had the worst season ever. And then we had Andy Reid show up. And Andy Reid's been a blessing since he arrived. You know, there's been controversy around him as well. No dynasty is free of controversy. If you guys need an indication of that, go back and watch the dynasty thing on, I believe, Apple TV about the New England Patriots and their rise to dynasty status. Nothing is free. The road to all the things you want in life can be paved with the worst things that have ever happened. And unfortunately, the Chiefs were a part of that. The Chiefs, you know, had some pretty tumultuous things going on. We've had fans die in the parking lots because of, you know, drunkenness and debauchery. So it's like, there's been a lot of things that go into place with Arrowhead. I had a rule that I was not going to take anyone under the age of 16 to Arrowhead. And I ended up taking my youngest to their first game for Christmas Eve a couple years ago. So, you know, with the right atmosphere, you can make it work, but, you know, it's not exactly what you would call a family atmosphere. Anyone that's a football fan could tell you how rowdy Arrowhead gets on game days. It's insane. So imagine the parking lot and everyone being alcohol fueled. It's even worse. So going into the sixth house, I'll get back to being on track. We see that sixth house is ruled by the sun. Let me get some water. I didn't mute myself that time. You're welcome. Sixth house is ruled by the sun. Sun is in Virgo in the seventh house. Very direct, very head-to-head competition. This game is going to be super fun. And with the Chiefs, Mars right next to the Mercury, like I said, it's going to be a performance from the heart. This is a team that has a lot to prove. You know, you win 2 back-to-back Super Bowls and people are like, are they good enough to win a third? Yeah. We just won 2 back-to-back. And the people that we might have lost have been replaced with people who really want to win and really want to play with Patrick Mahomes. We're going to be fine. But going back to this chart reading, seeing that there's so much coming from the heart, there's so much coming from that, drive and that will to win. It's going to be a wild game to watch regardless, but very much head to head, very close, very powerful game. Going to the 7th house ruled by Mercury. Once again, you look to Mercury in the 6th house, and as long as you're playing from the heart, you're set. We got Pluto for the Chiefs right there close by the sun. Pluto and sun aspects, they can be like a transformation, like a baptism by fire. It's not exactly what you would call ideal. For like a personal transit, it can be very, very isolating. It can be very like Persephone energy or Inanna, whichever level of ancient Sumerian or Greek mythology you want to go to. Virgo does represent the maiden and the relationship to women. So if you are not working well with women in your life, or if the Chiefs have not been paying the proper homage to women, a big thing about this season I forgot to mention is the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader documentary that came out and exposed how little they pay cheerleaders. If anything, I really hope that this labor demonstration that I mentioned being a theme of the NFL season this year could be better wages for cheerleaders and like retired NFL players to have some sort of pension or at least a fucking safety net. Like, children should not have to suffer because their parents' employer fired them or no longer needs them. That's ridiculous. I'm not putting political views into it. Children just shouldn't suffer because of, that. Hot take. But the female body representation is showing up as Demeter or Earth goddess in Virgo. So it's like, it's Mother Earth. It's that nurturing, wild planet Earth, Mother Earth spirit. So as long as the Chiefs have been paying homage to that energy in their life, which, I mean, the entire offseason has catered around the women of the Chiefs between Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift. It's like, I think they got that covered. Everyone is opening up arms in Kansas City. And I just want to say one more thing. If you have a problem with women having fun at a sporting event, don't go to a concert. Don't leave your house if that irritates you. Don't live life. Just stay inside if that bothers you so much, because it's going to be a theme no matter what. The Chiefs are shining when it comes to the female side of things. They got 2 daughters with Clark Hunt. His wife is a part of the team. It's a big family affair. So it's just going to be interesting to see how women eventually work through the Chiefs' legacy. Anyways, just because I'm biased, would I want Gracey Hunt, the namesake? I like to pretend that Clark Hunt named Gracey after me. Would I like to see her running the organization one day? Yeah, that'd be badass. Would I like to see more female leadership roles in the Chiefs? Of course, that'd be badass. So we'll see. My predictions do not involve anything menacing. They're just simply, hopefully, revolution at this point. Going into the 8th house, which is the collective energy, the Chiefs do have Neptune retrograde, conjunct Lilith there in Scorpio. Very much getting to the bottom of things. If they do have these, big tumultuous problems behind closed doors, or if they are too good to be true, they will get exposed tonight. Okay. So like, they're going to be seen here, with Neptune and Lilith opposite their Venus, Mercury, Moon, and Sun loosely. It's all loosely. You're going to see changes. You're going to see like the fact that Uranus is directly opposite of that part of their chart with Lilith, and not directly, but loosely opposite of Neptune and Lilith retrograde. I'm not going to say the Chiefs are absolved from any of these like issues behind closed doors of organizational whatever, because any billion-dollar organization probably has some things they'd like to hide. Let's just keep that in mind. You're going to see that they might have some like rose colored glasses being lifted with Uranus, kind of opposite that area of their chart. And then we go into the ninth house, which is empty for the Chiefs. They're not traveling, so that's exciting. And we don't really see much action in the 10th house either. We simply see the south node for the Chiefs being at 21 degrees Capricorn, which is going to be in the 11th house. So this is going to feel like a comfortable feeling to them. While Pluto is close by with that, I do see the Chiefs having a successful time. They're comfortable here. It's the main stage. They are no strangers to the fucking spotlight, okay? If my wallet and my drinking habits were the same that they were in 2017 when I was very much deep into my sports media career, I would be ruined by now, because I don't know if I could keep up with that level of celebration, because I don't really drink that much. And so when the Chiefs win, I'm just like, hell yeah. And I don't have like the problem the next morning where I'm hungover like I used to be. So it's really kind of cool to like experience the holistic side of a football season. So that's my personal little thing there. But South Node, 11th house, conjunct Pluto loosely, it's going to feel like coming home. And it's Pluto retrograde too, so it's really going to feel like that. Then we get to the thunderstorm ruled 12th house that I was talking about before. 22 degrees Saturn in Aquarius, the killer be killed degree that is happening to be opposite their Mars. This is something that they live with natally. The Chiefs understand this axis very well. So tonight, having Mercury opposite Saturn, like I said, I think they're going to be slow in the beginning. I think they might be a little bit slow to warm up. I think it's not going to be too slow, though. It's not going to last too long. Seeing that anytime you have Taurus placements and you have that heavy Virgo energy with Pluto and Uranus and all the asteroids there, you're going to have like some time getting through the obstacles. Like that 7th house for the Chiefs looks like running hurdles. And actually that 6th house running into the 7th house with Leo and Virgo looks like running hurdles completely. So I'm like, oh shit. But they're going to win. Chiefs definitely are going to win. And we can see that here in the tri-wheel. I just want to give a shout out to myself real quick. I have been away from technology for so fucking long, right? I have not put a single effort into, I hired someone to build my website. I have the best boyfriend in the world that edits everything that I could possibly need. He has editors himself, but he just continues to help me. And it's just like the most selfless thing in the world. And I love it. And it's like, I have this like innate fear that I'm not going to be able to do things if I haven't done them for a while. And just like I rode a horse for the first time since 2013 in January this year, that's how I started my New Year's Day. I just went horseback riding. It was 30 degrees outside and I'm like, let's go horseback riding. That's kind of like me ripping the Band-Aid off with this stream. I not only switched operating systems, I went from a Dell laptop using a monitor to make it bigger to a brand new iMac with a second monitor over here. And it's incredible. I redid my office space. Let's be real. My other half redid my office space and I just kind of like pointed. But like there's a lot happening behind the scenes for me with this show. And so knowing I went from running a media network during the pandemic, during the hardest time to do anything ever, I hosted live draft parties. I hosted live events. I hosted so many things when everyone was shut down. I don't know how to do anything besides get it done and do it well. So for me to have like some technical difficulties at the beginning because I don't know how to refresh cameras properly and like I got everything kind of configured, it is so cool to know that at any stage of life you can pick back up where you left off. Things might get better. So if you are watching this and you're like I was, I'm creating and I'm building a practice, but am I doing it for me? Am I just doing it because I like to tweet and I like to interact with people? Am I doing myself a disservice by, just doing guest appearances instead of having my own show? There's just a lot of like the mental process that goes into it. So I really appreciate the comments of you guys being like glad to see this and glad to see me back. With a lot of the things that I do here too, it's coming from a place of I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know all the answers. I don't know what's going to happen exactly next right away, but I do know that with tools like astrology and human design and really anything that you can do with spirituality through meditation, I don't really mess with numerology much just because astrology is enough numbers for me, and they are very significant numbers that have a lot of weight with them. So it's enough for me. But like the levels of things that you can do when you choose to have an open mind, it's next level. You can just do whatever you want, and you don't have to think that just because you've never done this before that you can't. You do enough research, you set up enough things, you can do all this. Like both myself and my other half worked, and he still works in media. We both work in media, and it's like I took so much time off. I didn't know if I could do it again. And yet it's like riding a bike. So we got this. But the best part about all this is that like you can share anything anytime you want. You can go live with technology. I think X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I think it's only getting better with the technology and the features that we're getting for creators. So there's no time like the present to get out and create. And if you have something to say, and if you have a gift, whether it's astrology, whether it's putting together bicycles, whether it's, taking apart lamps and building them back together, or whether it's mixing hair dye. I mean, I know you have to have licenses to do that stuff, but like I said, you can do anything. And the modern age that we live in, while, we know way more about each other than we really should. And I don't need to know what everyone's doing for dinner every night, but like, cool. I guess I'm glad. I'm a Gemini moon. Information is not going to deter me. I'm going to be like, thank you for sharing that with me. I would like to know more. So we live in a world that is very much, you get to choose your own adventure if you have that time and space. So if you can't create right now, it's okay. You will. If you have the drive to create something, you'll get there. It's just a matter of repetition. It's a matter of patience. And it's a matter of knowing that if you have a gift, it can't be taken from you, especially with the ancient art form of astrology. So I want more astrologers talking, okay? We have enough astrologers tweeting. Let's get them talking too. And I've seen so many people leave the Twitter space and end up going into the YouTube space because it's long form. And, a lot of my content, I feel like needs to be long form anyways. I'm a 9th house Pisces Mercury. If you know what that means, buckle up. You're in my TED Talk. I hope you know that already. Yeah, because we've already been going for 2 hours. So I'm geeked that you're still here. Let's finish this up and know that if you want to create, you can. So let's get into the tri-wheel. If you do not know what this is a tri-wheel chart. It's lit. That's all I have to say. That's it. That's the end of my analysis. This is where I find the numbers that we're talking about. Number 6 is going to be huge tonight. We're looking at number 8 too. If you want to know, I'm actually pointing to the screen, even though you can't see that. So yes, I'm an old person thinking that you guys can see my hand motion. So please bear with me. 6 is going to be huge. Not only is the North Node at 6 degrees Aries, the rising sign is at 6 degrees Pisces. Then we see 8. 8 is the number of the part of fortune. So not putting myself on the spot here, but I believe 14 is the product of 6 and 8, or 6 times 8 is 48. Yes, I did have to say that out loud and slowly. My times tables are lit. 6, 8, 48, definitely 14 too. We're going to see that. 22 is a huge number. Just because not only is the chief Saturn at 22, Chiron in the second house, which is all about money, values, and, power and your relationship to power, personal, financial, all that. Chiron is at 22 degrees in the second house. So a lot of twos there. Moving on to the zeros, the 0 degree Mars will be interesting. So 0 could be a very big number as well. Moving on to 13, hello, it's Taylor Swift's number. So if 13 goes off, we know why. 15 with the moon, it's Patrick Mahomes, of course. Like I said, I have no problem admitting I'm biased here, but we keep going through the game chart. And I can't explain this, and I really don't know how, but my score prediction has a lot to do with the addition, manipulation, understanding of energy here, not manipulation in a negative way. Words only have meaning if you choose to assign meaning to them. Manipulation can be movement. It can be finagling of things and rearranging of things as well. So looking at this energy that we have here, what I drew from all this going from first house to 12th house is that the Chiefs will be winning by 17 points tonight. 17 is a funny number, mostly because I've been getting trolled by 17 through like my family and friends for the last like month now. When I first started this project and decided like, hey, like 2 months ago, I was like, I need to talk about sports and astrology, right? So I'm going to do that. I started thinking to myself and I started writing down what I wanted to cover, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to do for my first show. And all this is done Mercury retrograde. So I don't discriminate when thoughts pop into my head. Mercury retrograde, thoughts pop into my head. Who fucking knows? I have nothing but respect for the Leo to Virgo season transition. So the Mercury retrograde with Leo and during Virgo season was really, really rough there for a minute, but I digress. One thing that I really loved about like sitting back and letting my thoughts kind of flow out on paper and then like kind of discuss like what I wanted to talk about and then go from there was this number kept popping into my head and I wrote it down. I don't know if I can pull up my Google Docs on my phone and you can see it because I guess the focusing is a little bit funny in here because I've once again screwed it up. Sorry. But I had in my Google Notes, I just wrote down 17 keeps coming to me and I bolded it because I'm like, I don't know what this means. I'm going to keep trying to figure this out. So 17 kept coming to me. My best friend was telling me a story and she like maxed out at 17 reps or something. And I was just like, and then like her friend kept giving her shit, like what kind of number is 17? And I just kept hearing 17 over and over again. So Chiefs could lose by 17 points, but in my opinion, astrologically speaking, the odds are in their favor. One of the main reasons I say that is because if we go over to the 12th house here in the tri-wheel area, you can go on by the numbers on the inner circle. The innermost part of that chart has a 12 right there, and you go to the left of that. The left of it, the first section is the game chart. So tonight's 0 placements in the 12th house, at least main placements. If I put every single asteroid possible to list, the whole chart would be full. So just know that there's no such thing as an empty house. You just haven't found the placement in that house yet in your chart. It could be an asteroid. It could be like a point, like the Aries or Libra point. So anyways, let's continue. Empty for the game. For the Chiefs, you got Saturn at 22 degrees, kill or be killed. 22 degrees Saturn in Aquarius. Let's pull this up here. It's a rug placed on the floor for children to play on. It's almost like the rug getting swept out from under you energy. But since Saturn's at 22 degrees, 59 minutes, this is one of the rare situations where I'd say you should just round up. But the karmic degree or the truth degree to this placement, which would be the rounded up degree, is a big trained bear sitting down and waving all its paws. And that's what we see as the truth degree to the Chiefs. So they might feel like they have to perform a certain way or appear a certain way. A lot of the times with NFL stuff that they don't tell you, which is why I'm here to expose all of the secrets. No, That's not it. A lot of things that they don't tell you with NFL is how much of a business it is. Like a lot of people take this stuff to heart and it's like, oh my God, my favorite team was devastated. But after being around so many agents and players over the last 10 years, I've been like fully exposed to how much of a business things are, you know? And it's not exposed in a bad way, but like just for example, everybody remembers, well, not everybody, in 2014, I believe it was 2014, Marshawn Lynch versus the Patriots, basically. The Super Bowl where the Patriots played the Seattle Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, and Malcolm Butler were the main parts of this little fiasco. Russell Wilson was in a contract year, I believe, and so was Marshawn Lynch. So I heard this story from the business like agent perspective that Pete Carroll wanted to hand off the ball to Marshawn Lynch instead of throwing on the 1 yard line. But because the contract would be too expensive, you'd have to pay him. Like he just won a Super Bowl for you guys. You'd have to pay Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson. They decided to throw on the 1 yard line instead. Like these are the things that people don't understand about the business side of things that are so real. So it's like sometimes decisions are made from a business perspective that's like the trained performance side, which is what the degree kind of represents here that I'm talking about. But the truth or the solution degree to the Saturn placement that the Chiefs have is a man turning his back on his passions teaches deep wisdom from his experience. I feel like this is like a game where we are going to be able to pass this information down for generations of like, this is how you get out of a corner. This is how you perform under pressure. This is how you show out after, you know, winning 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, but yet people are still fucking badgering you. Like, can they do another one? It's like, just shut up and be grateful for the football that we're watching right now. That's kind of the mood of the game too. Just shut up and watch the football because the Ravens are talented. Okay. Regardless of me being number 1 Chiefs homer, the Ravens are fucking talented. Lamar Jackson, talented. The fans, passionate. The city in ruins, but that's not the point. Kansas City isn't exactly known for being the safest place in the world. We just had a full display of that with the Super Bowl parade. And, you know, I've been involved, unfortunately, in a lot of violence in Kansas City. I've been involved in a shooting as well as having my car stolen by an out-of-town yet local gang. It's insane. Like, I know that this city is wild, but these are 2 passionate fan bases. And when 2 passionate fan bases get involved, there's going to be fireworks, and mostly in the Chiefs' favor. We're going to see an explosive game tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm excited. Like, I know that I'm sitting here talking about the astrology of it all. It's great. It's cool. It's whatever. But, you know, to go into a Chiefs season or really football season in general with something on the table that could be done that's never been done before, it's a cool thing. So when I'm talking about the Chiefs winning by 17 points tonight, it's divinely inspired. It came from a place of source that I have no explanation for. I just kept getting, and that was kind of like the 3 thing from the Super Bowl. So when I get a method that kind of works with me, aka Pisces Mercury, what is your source? Delusion? Who fucking knows? It came to me in a dream, like all these things. It can feel a little bit like, oh shit, am I really doing this again? But we had a big canon event moment in Chiefs Kingdom lore. So if you're ready for this, I'll tune in to another reason why we're going to win by 17 tonight. If you have missed the last year of Chiefs offseason, regular season, whatever part of the season, Chiefs Kingdom, the fan base debauchery, there we go. Debauchery. I don't know what I was doing there, like bacchanalia. But anyways, if you haven't been paying attention to Pat McAfee's show with talking about this Chiefs-aholic, a literal man from Chiefs Twitter that dressed up in like the Chiefs wolf outfit, not the exact one, because Casey Wolf has a very unique look, but this one was a very unique look as well. And it was like, just look up Chiefsaholic and Chiefs fans, whatever, and you'll find it. This man was going around robbing people, either in the mask and get up, or just in like a mask and hat and like a disguise in general, going around robbing banks in between traveling to Chiefs games, bragging about being an Amazon warehouse manager, bragging about making a salary that he was not making because he was robbing banks. Got sentenced, okay? This guy got sentenced. And all of Chiefs Kingdom has been watching this journey as he got arrested, evaded the police, evaded the FBI. It's been a saga, okay? And it was announced that his sentence for doing all these terrible things and robbing people at gunpoint and finally getting caught and having them all linked together, it was not nearly enough time, but I will say it was 17 and a half years. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I know we're at 217 viewers. I know something with 17 is going off, okay? So if you're a betting person, look at the roster. I certainly haven't to figure out who's number 17. Pick the Chiefs to win by 17. Pick the Ravens to win by 17. Pick the final score to be 17. I don't care. Whatever it is, I know that 17 is going to be involved. I know that it's going to be a thing. So while I do feel that the Chiefs are going to win by 17 points and that 6, 14, 22, 48 are going to be big numbers, that is my whole thing. 17 points. Chiefs are winning by 17 points. The signs to watch for: Virgo, Libra. Aquarius is going to feel a little bit restricted, okay? Pisces, yes and no. There's Saturn and also Neptune in Pisces, but at the same time, that's in the first house. Aries is in the first house too. So I would say Pisces, Aries, definitely. And Cancer, if you have any Cancer placements close by on the team, like the early ones, I can't remember what quarterback I looked into. It was one of the backup ones, and he was like a 0-degree Cancer sun. I want to say it was, I can't even remember now, but I don't think they're on the team anymore, so this doesn't matter. It's okay. But 17 points, Chiefs are winning by 17 points. Those are the numbers. That is everything. Now you guys have the full preview of what I've been working on. I'm so geeked out that this is over. No, I'm so geeked out that we made it this far and that I'm able to kind of share what I do for like clients and behind the scenes stuff. And then last year I did a lot of written predictions. So I would post the chart, and I think I had a thread. I'm not sure. Yeah, something like that. I had a thread, and it just kind of like kept up with what everyone was doing. Like if I predicted the Chiefs to win, if I predicted them to lose. I feel like my go-to answer when people ask me like, what do you feel about the Chiefs tonight? My go-to answer is always Chiefs by a million. Okay. You're never going to get a rational answer out of me. I'm a fan first. So if you're watching this and like ready to roast me and think that I like am not painfully self-aware already, sorry kids. I am already in the know that I can be incredibly biased and so much of a homer. So knowing that, you have what I predicted to be a really fun game to watch. We're going to see incredibly talented people, mostly Mahomes, scoring an incredible amount of points, winning by 17. It's going to be fun. You guys are going to have a great time watching the NFL season tonight. If you want to know more about that and you're catching this live, give it a couple minutes. It'll load on YouTube as well as be on my Twitter timeline for you to revisit. But I just want to say thank you. I think that, being encouraged to be as weird as humanly possible and be as strange as I need to be and to give into my gifts and talents that I have, whether it's speaking on a microphone, encouraging others to speak louder, or simply presenting my astrology findings in a pleasant and soothing manner with aesthetically pleasing lighting and production. I don't know. I do feel as though this is just the beginning. And I feel as though I have a couple of really cool meetings coming up with some really cool people. And I've kind of sort of overdone it on my September workload, but I'm here for it, because the only way you get better is by trying. And if you don't try at least to do something, what the fuck is the point? If you're just going to be a wallflower the rest of your life, that's okay. Some people, you're here to learn. You're here to observe. You're here to create in your own way. Just because you have a gift doesn't mean you have to get on a microphone and tell everyone about it. Your way of expressing things could be totally different, but I just want to express how important it is to keep creating regardless. And if you have let some time go by and you need a reminder, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And that's a very 10th house exalted sun thing to say. I'm also ruled by an exalted Mars, so I just assume that everyone is like ready to go and like knows how to like talk to cameras and work this. I have been doing this for an incredibly long time. Okay. So if you're bumpy, if you need a guest, if you need somebody to interview for a live stream or for a show, and even if you don't want to do it live, I'll join you. I carry interviews all the time. I end up asking people questions during my own interviews, so it's kind of obnoxious, but I promise I'll tone it down. But if you've made it this far and if you're still tuned in, thank you. This has been incredible to be able to press a button, go live, talk to you guys about sports and astrology, two things I love so much, and share more of my personality, because you're not going to get that in 160 characters or 10,000 characters, which I think the limit is now. You get a lot of things, but I don't think you're going to get a good grip on my personality. My tone of voice, my positivity, it's not fake, it's not manufactured. The things that I love doing, I truly love doing. The people that I love working with, I truly love working with. And I encourage absolutely everyone to collaborate as much as you can in this world. The astrology community has been incredibly welcoming and receiving to me. So I want to say thank you guys. If you're just learning about astrology, I'm glad you're here. If I talked way too much over your head, I do have a free Astrology 101 book on my website, northernastrology.com, available. So you can always check that out. And just like refresh your brain if you learned astrology like 10 years ago and you're like, I don't really know if I remember. There's so many tools out there that are free. The biggest thing about my practice is wanting to keep things free and affordable to everyone as much as possible. So thank you all. I appreciate you all, and I will be signing off. Peace.